can't change what they don't know until they choose to see. I don't fret if they don't grow. It's not my place to speak, but I'ma keep rolling round, hold it down. This time you spent with me, I'ma keep rolling round, hold it down. Your life's more than memories. Yeah.
Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us on Creative Juices Podcast, where we discuss anything and everything creative and living life as a creative. Today we have the discussion topic of author branding, and we're going to be discussing the ins and outs of it, the process of it, and all the things behind the scenes with today my co-host and my guest, my own mother, Naleighna Kai, USA Today's best-selling author of a whole bunch of stuff. What?
You know more than that.
Anyway, I know, but you're basically gonna tell them everything because there's like too much to name. Hey, Christine Pauls, how you doing? But yeah, basically this is my mother. She helped me start my writing career, but she started her writing career first, so she has a wealth of knowledge, many years of knowledge behind. Let's see, when did you start? 2000. 2000, and basically has seen the process go from in the publishing industry from the year 2000, even a little bit before, even all the way up to date. So she has a wealth of knowledge, and we're both going to talk about a bunch of good stuff dealing with author branding. But first. Hey, Brenda. First, we're going to play a game called One Gotta Go. Basically, this is a game where where I'm going to list off of 4 things, and one of those things gotta go. So, Mom, or do you want me to call you Naleighna?
Mom is fine.
Like, children get beat for calling their mom out of their name. But all right. So one gotta go. A manicure. B, a pedicure. C, massage, or D, facial.
Wait a minute, that's not fair. Because
one gotta go.
Facial.
Why?
Well, because I can do that myself. Everything else kind of requires assistance. A facial, you get the materials, hook it up. Yeah, facial has to go. But we all need them though.
True, but in this case, like, it's one of those things, like, technically, even though we don't want to give it up, kind of have to in this case. But we're going to be playing this a couple of other times, so the other 2 that I selected for you are pretty great, and you're probably going to have a hard time with that one.
Oh, see, that's not even fair.
Yeah, so we'll sprinkle that in. Hey, Anita, how you doing? What's going on, Michael? So yeah, we'll sprinkle those in between questions and discussion points and everything like that. So, like I said, the topic of today is
author
branding. Hold on. Brenda Pius says she would have picked facial too. So yeah.
Like minds and all that. Yeah.
Indeed. Hopefully everything sounds good to you guys. If anything sounds different, just let me know in the comments or anything like that. But we're going to tackle the topic of author branding. Hey, Audrey. And so the point that we need to make now is, why is author branding period, why is that so important to an author?
Okay, there is a sea of authors and books out there, and we need to figure out what makes yours stand out. What makes the reader pick your book over someone else's? There's all this content flooding the industry, and to make yours stand out, you need something that makes it identifiable. What is branding? Branding is the perception of a product, service, experience, company, or organization. But in this case, it's a person and content. So part of that in branding is what's in a name. It's your name. You have to first decide what your brand is. What genre are you writing in? Who's your target market? That has a great deal to do with author branding. If you're writing in genres that aren't a blend, then you want to have 2 different names, 2 different brands. Consider that children's books and erotica aren't a good mix. Christian fiction and erotica isn't a good mix. It's a matter of trust. If I pick up your book, and you write under erotica or Christian fiction, and that's what I've come to expect, then I pick up another book down the road, and then there's, all of this slap and tickle, or probably more slap than tickle. It's a matter of trust. I won't trust that your brand is consistent across the board. So it's highly recommended to focus and establish yourself in one genre and build a following that will come with you to other genres. When you split your focus, it'll mean less resources and energy, and it might take longer to hit the markets that you would like. Case in point, L.A. Banks had 3 different pen names. Leslie Estelle was her romance. Leslie Estelle Banks was her suspense. L.A. Banks was her thriller and horror. So there was a great deal that readers knew. There were some people who would read romance, but they wouldn't read L.A. Banks. They would read suspense, but they wouldn't read romance. So she was able to identify and create a brand in all 3. So that even meant her colors, the theme and the colors matched the genre. So in romance, we had the happier looking covers with colors that were lighter, kind of brought pink, like it would bring romance to mind. And whereas her thrillers had richer colors and things of that sort. Case in point about splitting your genre and your market. There was on Facebook, there was this woman who was a former exotic dancer, and don't have any problems with a former exotic dancer. I mean, when you're trying to come up with author money, there's been some times all 4 cheeks and a couple of chins needed to hit the pole. So I don't have a problem. Behave. Anyway, but she switched into doing childcare. And what she didn't do was create another brand and another name. So she had this exotic dancer name, and she kept all of the pictures, all of the party pluggers, everything. And then all of a sudden she's doing childcare. Now, as a parent, I'm going to be sliding through and seeing that and like go through her entire social media and like, oh, well, I'm not so sure. I want somebody, my husband, dropping off my child at this one house, because she was gorgeous. She was drop dead gorgeous. But my point is, when she decided to childcare, she should have switched her the name, or also created a different brand, a different social media following, page, all of that stuff to separate her past from her present.
Right. But question. So when deciding your brand as an author, like when did you decide that it was more important for you to use like your pen name as a brand than it was to use your real name? Okay,
see, what had happened was I started writing erotica, and you were still in grammar school at that time. And I didn't want people to look at you differently because of the things that I wrote. So what I did was I chose Naleighna Kai. Naleighna is a blend of East Indian, Nalini, and Senegalese. So that's what I chose to kind of protect you and to establish a brand that was different from Lisa Woodson, which is my real name. And you kind of blew it all to hell when you took my first book to grammar school, to your class, to show everybody for show and tell, hey, this is my mama. So you kind of blew that out of the water. But here's the thing, I had already put the money and time and the effort into building Naleighna Kai, so I couldn't switch gears and go back to Lisa Woodson. And at that time, it was also good to have a different name from your regular name and then a pen name, because when you would call up a newspaper and say, hey, I'd like to do an article, I'd like you to do an article on Naleighna Kai, you were actually doing it for yourself, but the people on the other end didn't know that you were repping yourself. So it kind of gave a little separation there for business purposes.
Question. So in relation to how branding and being an author is now in like 2020 versus 2000, what's different about how you approached it? Because of course we had a lot of stuff, we didn't have a whole lot back then. So in relation to what you did back in 2000, how important and how serious did you know that was going to be a thing for your author branding to take place?
I would have treated it differently back then if I had known how important it would be now. Well, and there were a lot of things that weren't available back then. Social media, there wasn't Instagram, there wasn't Twitter, there wasn't Pinterest, there wasn't all of these other things that help to get your brand out there. Back then, there wasn't a lot of self-published. Self-publishing was just becoming a thing. So most people were picked up by major houses, and then they helped to build a brand. So it wasn't a lot back then for us to individually. I was just starting in the industry and building a brand. But then after that second book, we both got to deal with a major house. Then I got to see it from both sides, because they didn't build my brand. They actually gave me better distribution. I lost a lot of control, but also too, it made sure the book was everywhere at once. But the brand of it, I still had to work on that, even with being with a major house. But back then, that was the way to go. Now, these days, I would recommend anybody first getting published for them to self-publish, because right now getting deals and agents and all of that, it is a little harder than it was. There's thousands and millions of manuscripts flooding New York all the time. And it doesn't mean we get rejection letters and all of that. It doesn't mean that your work isn't good. It means that the numbers don't allow for it to get through, because publishing houses only have so much time and resources to give. So one imprint may only do 12 books per year. That means that's 6 authors they'll keep from their current list. They may let 6 new authors come in, which means if they have thousands of manuscripts for that particular genre, for that particular imprint, it doesn't mean your work isn't good. It just means they have so much to filter through that your work might not be what they can put their attention, time, and money to.
So the recommendation is to first self-publish, get your brand together before going to a major publishing house. That way you can be visible?
I think you need to build a brand and show them, number one, you don't need them. Most times, you and I both, our deals came to us. We didn't go looking for deals.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They came to us because it looked like we didn't need a deal. It's almost like borrowing money. When you need money, you can't get it from anywhere. But when you've got it, they're throwing it at you like hotcakes. So my thing is, we had to establish a brand at first. And then, same way with Elin Harris. He sold books out of the trunk of his car. He built his brand on beauty salons. That's how he got started. Kimberly Lawson Roby published hers. And then the publishers came for her. Mary B. Morrison put her money in and did it that way. They built a brand first. Then they went there. Then they could command the kind of dollars that it takes to actually stay in this industry for a long period of time.
Right. So when you decided your name, what does your name mean?
It means the determined one is present.
So for the most part, whenever an author is basically getting into the publishing industry, do you encourage the pen name, or do you feel like now we've gotten so past the point of hiding behind a pen name that it's okay to go either or?
It depends on what your purpose in putting the book out for. If you've written a tell-all book and your family is going to take a hit out on you, I suggest you use a pen name to protect your. For me, it was protecting you, which come to find out, I didn't need to protect you, but that was a different story. But I didn't know that at the time. I would have done something differently with the name. I would have spelled it simpler, because everybody gets it wrong, but nobody forgets it though.
True.
Right. So my thing is, in choosing a name, choose a name that resonates with you. Naleighna Kai resonates with me because that's who I am. Lisa Woodson is also who I am, but it sounds a little different when you say an erotic writer or romance writer, Naleighna Kai. It has a different ring and connotation to it than it does with just a regular old Lisa Woodson. But Lisa Woodson's the bomb too, I'm just saying.
And speaking of which, your friend Moose is in here.
Hey, Moose!
And so it's Audrey. Wanted to say hi to you guys.
Hey, Audrey.
Also, Marze, how you doing? I didn't want to miss you guys or anything like that. Love you all. Thank you for supporting.
Thanks for coming.
So when it came to my name and my brand, so my original name is Jeremy. You guys chose. I didn't have any input, even though I love the name JL. Why did you guys choose JL for my brand?
because Jeremy, at that time you were writing young adult. You were writing a teen book. You were 15. Jeremy sounds young. JL had a stronger feel to it, and you weren't going to be writing teen books all your life. So we chose a brand name for you that would grow with you. And it worked, because now you have a book coming out. Hint, 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 hint. You have a book coming out this year that we're writing together, along with your sister and your niece and your nephew. So we're on the tail. Yeah, Hiram.
My niece.
Yeah, my niece.
Oh, your niece.
Right.
Oh, like, wait a minute. Okay.
You know what? Don't even go there. Don't even go there. So my thing is, we chose the name that would live with you for all the periods of time. You know, like now, you are a JL. It is, you know, it got to be a point that even though I started in the industry before you, I became known as what? JL's mom. People got Naleighna Kai, and you started achieving more successes than I had. You know, you were invited to speak places. I had to send my lawyer with you because people didn't believe you were a youngster. But it fit. We made the right choice on that because you grew into the name.
Right. I feel like when that was decided, like, even though I didn't really have an input on that, I felt like it was the best decision because, one, Jeremy does sound like a kid name. And then, even though, you know, I appreciate you for my name and everything like that. You know.
Well, hello.
But I feel like later on, like, once everybody started calling me JL, what's going on, JL? I'm like, okay, it became part of my identity that I adopted. Because, like, even though I do have the books, I still have my graphic design, I still have everything else. And everybody pretty much knows me and understands me as JL. And I feel like that's going to follow me for the rest of my life, but I'm okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially I think also, a lot of people have a hard time saying the word Jeremy.
I don't think it is, but I mean, 3 syllables versus 2, you know, that is a lot that we do when we're writing as well. We also I also tell my authors that they need to use 2 syllables because it makes it easier because the reader actually reads all 3 syllables and you want them to roll through it quickly. But let me get back to about author branding and name. I also have another pen name, Madison J. Mitchell, and it only was used on 1 book, and here's why. I was able to sign with Monique, the comedian, at a Black Pride event here in Chicago. And that's an LGBTQ. Well, it wasn't Q back then. It was just LGBT. No, it was just LG.
LGBT? No.
No, it wasn't T back then. This was before, you know, the extra letters were added on. And they wanted me to sign because of Every Woman Needs a Wife. They thought it was a book that fit that crowd, that target market. And when they found out that Every Woman Needs a Wife was not a lesbian book, they want to snatch that signing away. And I was like, hold up, Chief. Wait, hold up. I actually wrote a 60-page book, an LGBT book under Madison J. Mitchell, and I printed it just for that event. It's not available anywhere. But I was able to sign that book and keep that signing and that opportunity. But I also was able to sell my other books as well. And I have a whole new market of people who followed me because people read all kinds of things. It's LGBT does, LGBTQ does, but it's not always true in the reverse. There are people who read Christian fiction that won't read Mermaid. There are people who read romance that won't read it. So the thing about it is separating the market. I knew then I needed to do it under a different name.
Gotcha. So when you first started out writing, and even just all the way up until now, what made you what defines your target market for your books I would say per genre?
Well, for me, you know, I started off with erotica and then it went to contemporary fiction and then women's fiction. That was really what the demand was back then, where people were starting to get into it and self-publish and tell their stories, their life stories, and people who look like me, who look like you. So, you know, we've always had the status quo of, you know, the Fabios and, you know, Harlequin. But hey, don't laugh at that market. Harlequin has been an established market for years and they are not going anywhere. But the thing about it is, my hero is a Fabio. So I started off with writing people who looked like me, but it was the experiences that resonated. About 50% of my readership is white and other ethnic backgrounds, because it isn't just the color that we're talking about. It's about the experiences. So for me, writing women's fiction, contemporary fiction, and only later did I write Christian fiction, which is My Time in the Sun. So that brand changed for me. So the cover changed for me, but also the content. I couldn't put as much intimacy in there as I would have in my other books. Then I branched out with Slaves of Heaven to write speculative fiction, because I was emulating Octavia Butler, who is to me, the best writer on the planet. I mean, hands down. I was emulating my idol, so to speak, to write something that was literary fiction and pretty deep. So doing that, I'm establishing, but none of those brands, none of those genres doesn't mean that means that I have to change my name in those. I can write with Naleighna Kai across the board in all of those genres.
Right. We did have a question. Bridget McGill is asking a question.
Hey, Bridget.
Were you able to write the same book under two pen names because you're self-published, and you had all of the control?
Okay, I get what she's asking. The thing about it is, even with major publishing houses, people have more than one name. Okay. So it isn't just because it makes it easier. I make the choice, I can make the name. But there are a lot of times that publishers will tell their authors who are well established in one genre that they need to, because they don't want to mix the audience, or the audience opens up something and it's, hey.
Yeah, like, this ain't for me.
Right. They don't want to do that. And also they may use a brand like James Patterson. He has a major brand. He doesn't even have to write books anymore. They just put his name on something. If you see his name and then you see like James Patterson and Max Petro, or James Patterson and XYZ, best believe that the person who put in that work was the XYZ person. No. But because they built such a phenomenal brand with James Patterson, that's all they need is his name. And for him and his covers don't even have people on it anymore. They just have an icon. They have his name, like a class of billion, and the title. That's all they need, because he established a brand early on. And I thought it was amazing that his main character that he built his brand on was a Black man. And I think he opened the eyes of some people who were reading, all the white people who were reading his books, to get to see Black people in a different light. Intelligent, resourceful, human. So I applaud him for those efforts. But his brand is phenomenal. Another person I admire, Louise Hay, Hay House. She started her brand on compassion. She was the woman who would go and work and do healing work with people who had been diagnosed with HIV/AIDS. When the industry was casting aspersions on that group of people, she would be the only person that was going to do healing work and healing affirmations. And she wrote a book called You Can Heal Your Life. And it was rejected by every major publishing house. So she published it herself. And she, as a self-published author, first time out the gate, hit the New York Times bestsellers list and stayed there for months. Not only did she build her brand, she built a bigger brand by starting a publishing house, and she publishes Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra, Marianne Williamson, all the big names in New Thought. And her brand is what? Light and love, peace and joy. Right. And it is about soul work. So now she has a publishing house that is in Australia, the UK, all over in Africa, all of these places, because her brand was built on service. And that's what she came to be known for, is that soul work. So I admire her in the fact that her taking that risk is what helped to build her brand, as well as propelled her into being a multimillionaire, and others. Because not only did she put that money out for herself, she put it out for others.
Mm-hmm. Now, okay, so what we're actually talking about technically is within brand is called voice. So voice is for anybody who's trying to become an author or is an aspiring author. We're talking about voice. So we're talking about what you're putting out there. Like, some people put it out there as just romance, or if they're erotica, like you see they dress the part. But with like Louise Hay, she basically built everything on light and love, happiness, and trying to basically build self-help to make sure you guys have a good understanding. But every author, from what I've seen in her brand under Hay House, has the same consistency. So everybody's in her brand is basically light and love, peace, self-healing, things of that sort. You were saying something?
Right. And that's a key thing, is that she surrounded herself with people with like minds. And that means not only did when she went out to build her brand, say when Wayne Dyer went out and he had his book. Well, what would happen is, of course, it would shine a good light on Louise Hay. When Marianne Williamson, I think she was quoted by Nelson Mandela or one, either way, it held her to superstardom in the literary world because of something that she said that resonated with all people. And it also, brought light back to who? Louise Hay, the person that had put in all the risk and all the time in the beginning. I mean, Susie Orman is published by her when we're talking about financial. So it isn't just always light and love, peace and joy, but it also is your finances. If your finances aren't right, you can't feel too much light, peace and love, light and joy.
True.
So yeah.
Okay, so bringing it to the aspiring author, one thing I want to talk about is what types of materials help an author brand. So what basically helps you when you establish your brand and keep on evolving throughout the years?
If you take a visit to my Twitter, Instagram, BookBub, Amazon, you'll see that Naleighna Kai logo, the one that you keep kicking me for you to redo. Hint, 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 hint. Okay. So that logo, that emblem of me, that actually is a picture of me with my hat. I have a physical picture that they took out all of the coloring, and they took my eye too. I'm like, what happened to my eye? Jeremy's like, Mom, it's iconic. Whatever. But that is part of my brand. You'll see that logo everywhere I am. You can recognize it. Only lately, over the last few years, have I started using my picture. And it wasn't necessarily because I didn't think I was drop dead gorgeous. Wasn't anything to do with that. But I wanted people to see the words. I didn't want them to look and say, well, dag, she's writing all this hot stuff, or she's writing all this romance. And, people make judgments according to the way you look. Like, for a minute, who was that? There was a New York Times bestselling author. I'm not going to say any names, but she wrote under a pen name for years, and you didn't see her face anywhere because her father was a minister. And her brain to cast aspersions on her family or her upbringing. But the thing about it is, I kind of took that road in the beginning of just the name, just the logo, and you'll see it everywhere. So my website, on my media kits, and on your website with your branding, your bio, your media kit, your books, your blurbs, you don't see my face on the back of my books. I know people do that. No, what you see on the back of my books, I want you to buy
your other books.
So my thing is, my thought process is always moving forward in that manner. So you'll see it on my Facebook fan page. All of my reader-focused social media, which is, if you're an author, you need to be on BookBubs, you need to be on Goodreads, you need to have an Amazon page. If you go on all of those, you will see that same logo. So the materials, we're talking about bookmarks, promo cards, promo cards for The King of the Castle, and my book.
Speaking of which, I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce her name right. Jamyi Joy? Jemiah. Sorry about that. I'm so sorry about that. She said Fabio has nothing on your son's. That's me. Son's book covers. Oh yeah. And and that was part of my brand too. When I changed, if you notice in the beginning of my writing career, I had mostly women on my covers. And lately, because I realized my established brand and my voice is interracial romance. So you'll see Vikas Bhardwaj on the cover with his, anyway. Okay. I'm behaving. I promise I'm behaving. And Moose Ali Khan, please get on a cover real soon. She will not let you escape that. Please hop on a cover soon. If you ever get a chance to check out this man's yoga and spiritual healing sessions on Instagram Live, check him out. Moose Ali Khan and Moose Ali Khan Music.
Masood Ali Khan Music, Moose Ali Khan. That's a brand. See, two different brands, two different names.
Mm-hmm.
Moose Ali Khan is more about his modeling and his acting, and Masood Ali Khan is more about his spiritual work. So here we have already branding. So when he moves into writing his book, he's already got an established brand on both fronts. But back to Vikas Bhardwaj. He's on the cover. He's on the cover of Loving Me for Me. He's also on the cover of Kings of the Castle and King of Devon. And the thing about it is, when I moved into writing interracial romance, it was a good fit because he is the face of romance now. He's been on more covers than any other model, East Indian model or American model. He's been over at least 500, 600. And what I love about books is the fact that they go from person to person. There are books that have been passed down from my mother, from my grandmother to my mother to me. The thing about it is they have a longer shelf life than print material like magazines or things of that sort. So that's a key thing. So establishing that most of my male characters are now East Indian males. There's Black women, East Indian males, May December romances. He has become part of my brand. And if you notice, the covers have changed recently. You changed my branding. I changed it to fit the most successful book that I have individually, which is Loving Me for Me. We went back and changed lettering of all of my other books to match that particular brand because the lettering on the books is also a brand.
Now, what she's talking about is brand consistency. So if you guys looked at the Kings of the Castle series, basically that is what we consider consistency, because throughout this will be a point that we'll touch on in a few minutes, because I see your question, Anita. Basically, when we're deciding on a book cover, we're not just deciding the image, we're deciding on the font choice. The font choice has to make sense for the genre. We're deciding on the tone and the mood for the book cover, depending on the story type. You wouldn't want to put something dark and horrific on a romance uplifting novel and everything like that. So that's basically what we're talking about, is consistency within your book choice or your romance genre or whatever genre that you're working in. But that's a section within the author branding that basically will get tackled whenever you're working on your book and working on yourself. Go ahead.
What I like about you when you're doing your graphic design is that you talk with the author to get what their vision is, as well as you read a few chapters of the book to kind of understand the tone. There's a lot of things that goes with that. So by the time they get a final cover, it has gone through, they may write the words, but it's your choice, it's your responsibility to make the visual for what a reader will gravitate to. So when you see Louise Hay, she will have like these bright little hearts or whatever, because that sends a message. It sends a theme and says, this book is going to give you what's on the cover. Whereas when you look at mine, I have now a couple on the cover. It's a Black woman, East Indian male, or whatever. You know that there's going to be some love going, or maybe something else. There'll be something in there that's going to make you happy. Let me just put it that way. But it delivers. You understand what I'm saying? And that is key as an author, for you to work with your cover designer in order to convey the message that you want to get across.
Right. I feel like, okay, so when we're discussing just specifically book covers, so what I do is when I'm working on the graphic design portion, of course, like she said, I read the book, or at least read a majority of the book to get an understanding of what I'm even designing for. I also have to get an understanding who the author is, only because it has to fit within who they are as well, like visually, making sure they, because if it was, I'm trying to pick apart one of the book covers I designed for you. So I will say a lot of the book covers that I've designed for my mom in the beginning were just trial by error. honestly.
Terror.
They weren't terrible.
I said
Like my
trash
first
and
one,
terror.
oh, my my first cover for my mother, honestly, I was in school for graphic design, of course, so I'm basically testing out. I was not willing to really work on a book cover, but she talked me into it, and I'm glad she did because I found my love for. Oh my God.
And then it
So,
changed. And then it
and
changed.
then it changed again. Now, see the last one, that one right there, the last one, that's where the thought process went into it because of the fact you think about when you hear the title just open door marriage. You're thinking like you're inviting somebody in, but you're also wanting that person to have a curiosity to peek in and everything like that. So, in going into it with you, basically working on the design for that, I had to think about one, the design choice for the book and also the photograph for the book, but also make sure that it stays within what is specifically you or how you would look. Whenever it came to like marketing the book and everything like that. So I'm happy for that last choice because the first two, like I'm not going to say that the second one wasn't a good choice. However, I feel like over the years that I've grown in graphic design and learned and basically had the design thinking behind it and understood what it took to be a very good book cover designer. I'm happy with the third choice that we came out with.
And this,
So
we were talking about earlier, Loving Me for Me, that's Vikas Bhardwaj. And I have her face angled. That is a Black woman. But if you kind of look at it, she could be white with a tan. She could be Latina. She can be anyone. The thing is, when we're doing a cover, we want the reader, my reader market mostly is female, but I have a big male following because, the readers pass the book on to their husbands or significant or insignificant other, do tell. But this delivered, that women like to put themselves in the place of the female heroine. So by not having necessarily everything face forward, they get the opportunity to do this. This is something I wanted to share with you as far as marketing material. This was a suggestion. This is Just One Taste cookbook. That was the biggest marketing piece that we have done ever. And I'm just saying that there are people who don't even read romance or don't even read our stuff, but they got to know us through we did the Sugar and Spice cookbook, we did the Just One Taste cookbook, then we did the Fit for a King. And actually Vikas put some East Indian recipes in there. So we were able to, when he promoted it on his page, it opened us up to other readers. So now I have readers in Italy, East India, Great Britain, Canada, that I would not have gotten before if we didn't do a different type of marketing material. It was a cookbook, just a recipe. Recipes aren't copyrightable. The recipes and then an excerpt of the books in each one. So that piece of marketing expanded us for everyone that participated. It wasn't just the authors that are in the tribe. We asked people outside of the tribe who had a bigger following than or higher up the literary food chain. Why? Because that opens us up to other markets, as well as when we did the Sugar and Spice anthology. Now that also, short stories that introduced readers to people who they'd never read before. And we blended it with like J.D. Mason, who was a national best-selling author, and as well as Lisa Watson, Pat George Walker. So all of us were in there. And there were some debut authors in there. And what did that do? It opened them up to a market that they would not have been privy to had they been doing this on their own. So pairing up with people who share the same brand logic, that it makes sense for you to be attached to, key point.
Right. Okay, so we're going to channel into another one of One Gotta Go.
Oh, come on. Really?
Oh, no, we got to do this because we also got to, everybody's asking questions about logos.
Okay.
So I feel like this is a good time to break it up and ask you which one got to go. So she has to pick, she has the choice of, out of 4, she has to pick one of them that got to go. So, one got to go. A, Billie Jean. B, Thriller. C, Man in the Mirror. D, Rock With You. by Michael Jackson.
Oh, see, no, I refuse. I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. That is just okay. Thriller.
One gotta go.
Wait, no. Okay, no. See, that's just wrong. That's just all the way wrong. I'm not doing it. Not doing it. Thriller. No, but the video, man. Okay, next question.
We'll tackle another one before we end. Okay, so when we're basically going to discuss the portion of logos, especially because Anita Roseborough Wade and Deanna McNeil, aka Michelle Sims, basically asked. Also, hey Therese, mine's Anderson. So when we're tackling logos, now I am hell bent on you changing yours because even though it was basically designed for the time, logos and everything related to it basically it's always evolving. There's always a different trend with it. Like even though there are some logos that are very timeless. So Musa Ali Khan said I can't do it either.
Thank you. Somebody feels my pain here.
These questions were serious, so it was interesting.
But logos,
okay,
timeless. McDonald's, they started off with what they did back in the 50s, and then they changed to the recognizable one with the golden arches. So that's a logo brand. Buick, I love Buicks. I drive a Buick. And they kind of changed their emblem. It's almost the same, but then they put a circle around it. And that's another thing I want you all to be open to. Don't be afraid to change your brand. Like, I'm not afraid to change the logo. It's just, I've kind of become married to it. That's just because it's actually physically me without my color. I've got to show you the picture of me in that hat. It looks the bomb. But if you look at Amazon started with Amazon, and then they went to that smile curve. Now you don't even have to see anything but that smile curve.
But also, what does that smile curve represent?
I'm making money. And y'all
No. When you look at the Amazon logo,
happy.
There's a story behind that.
What? Tell us.
Amazon. So you spell it out, Amazon.
Right.
That curve is from the A to the Z. So they have everything from
A to Z. Wow. And they do, because even with this pandemic and everything going on, they're the only ones, but them and Walmart are the only ones I know that didn't shut down. I mean, they still shipping out, they still hiring folks. So their brand, they started in the garage. Amazon started in a garage. So did Apple. Apple started in the garage too. Amazon used to do book. It was him and his wife did college. And later they built on and added everything else, but they got their foot in the door with one brand, which was books. And then they cornered the ebook market. And because publishing houses thought that Amazon was always going to play fair. And Amazon showed them a thing or two, because the publishers handed over the ebook market to Amazon. And then Amazon decided, we're going to set the prices. And the major publishing houses says, oh, hell no, this is not how it's going to work. And they took them to court. The publishing houses took Amazon to court and lost. Because what? Amazon is a monopoly. They sold up that market. And it's a major publishing houses to get it back. But also, too, it has been a platform by which many independent authors, self-published authors, are able to take their work out there into the hands of readers. It used to be the New York publishing houses was the gatekeeper for getting books published. Now that's not the case. But still in all, establishing a brand is what helps you to make it and stand out.
Right. So the question Anita asked, how do you decide if you need a logo and what defines a logo? So that I'm gonna tackle the first part of the question first. So how do you decide if you need a logo? Basically, that's solely up to you. I feel like everybody needs a logo, especially if they're coming into the business portion of this. But how you decide whether you're gonna what type of logo you're gonna need is the question. So there are different parts of a logo. There's a word mark. There's an emblem that you can work with. So honestly, within the publishing industry, we have a lot of people using the pen as their logo, or the little the little pin with the feather on it, and it's like a little
Quill.
scribe and everything.
Quill.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we've seen that. We've seen that before. We understand it's either for something dealing with books or something dealing with writers. Therefore, you have to be able to switch it up. Please switch it up. So deciding whether you need a logo or not, that's solely up to you. I'm always going to say that an author definitely needs a logo, or to use their name as the logo, which basically would mean that it's a word mark. A logo starting out honestly needs to you need to be able to put it anywhere. So I wouldn't suggest you do anything with a lot of different colors at the first, because technically that's a graphic. That's not necessarily a logo. Like, especially, okay, case in point, 9 Mag. Their logo is that 9. You can see it anywhere. It fits on a t-shirt. It fits on their branding and everything like that. It's a flat surface logo and everything like that. You could put it everywhere. My mom's logo, even though it does have some color to it in...
the lips have red.
Yeah, the lips have red and everything like that, but it still could fit on a t-shirt because it's flat. It has to be able to work whether in black or whether in white. It has to be able to work whether 3 color process for printing. Whenever somebody's doing screen printing for your shirt, somebody needs to be able to do that effortlessly, because after a while, like, this is the thinking that you're going to have later on, is that that's going to cost a lot of money for you to do all that with. Mm-hmm. So it needs to be able to be, of course, black and white. It needs to be able to be in color. It needs to be able to be flat on anything, whether it's your website, whether it's your promo cards or your bookmarks, on the back of a book, things like that. So, but even still, even if you don't go with an emblem, if you go with your name, that's a word mark. That's still technically a logo, but you need to decide where that design is going to go. And also, if you decide to change up your genre later, or switch to a different genre, you're going to have to factor that in. So I would say think about all the stuff like that beforehand.
Hold up.
Go ahead.
Okay, you talked about service mark. I have an event that I've done for 16 years, Cavalcade of Authors. I went ahead and I trademarked it, because I've had it for so long, and then somebody else was starting to use Cavalcade of Authors. So I have the emblem. My son made the logo, but I also trademarked the name. So there was 2 different trademarks. Why did I do that? Because there have been some scandals recently in the publishing industry where that author trademarked the word cocky. And then she forced all of these other authors to change their books with that in the title. It was a big backlash because of that. And the thing is, I didn't trademark it to keep anybody else from using it. I trademark it to keep somebody else from telling me that I couldn't use it when I've already established. And that's the first thing that they will ask you. How long have you been using that trademark or that name? And I had been using it longer than anybody else. But if they went through the process to trademark before I did, they would be sending me a cease and desist letter saying, hey, love you, but you have to stop using it. And then I would have to pay money to fight to use something that I've been using longer than It was worth it to me to spend the money to trademark Cavalcade of Authors and the service mark and the name.
Exactly. Like, that's a whole nother topic.
Okay.
Man. But like I said, yeah, whenever you're working on stuff like that, like, yeah, it's very good to trademark, especially if it's going to be your logo and your vision and your image. Tackle that. Anita also asked,
is Anita the only one asking questions?
No, I was trying to tackle the second part. I think I tackled her second part of the question, which is basically what defines a logo. Yeah, all the stuff that I basically said was whether it's a word mark or whether it's an emblem. Like, case in point, Chase. You know what the Chase emblem looks like. You see it all the time, especially in Chicago. Even when you're going around to an ATM and everything, you know what that Chase emblem looks like without them even saying Chase on it. things like that. So they have a emblem and they have a word mark attached to it.
And I've seen it in a different color. Normally we see it in blue. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the standard. But I've also seen it when they have like Chase and a subsidiary. And I saw the emblem is green, but the name was still the same, but the emblem color was different because they were doing a different market.
Right. That will basically be defined. Like a lot of companies go through, I know we're going into company branding, but this is also still something to think about. Like whenever you're thinking about switching it up, like say if you are doing something for breast cancer awareness and want to do something in pink. I mean, yeah, that's breast cancer awareness.
Yep.
Yeah. You want to do something in pink. You have to make sure that logo fits well with that color as well. So you don't want to do something that is a whole bunch of different colors and then try to slap it on some pink. That's very bad design. So these are all the things that you definitely need to think about when you're basically tackling on your logo. Think about what I'm not saying to implement or basically copy straight from all these different companies or different authors or even publishing houses, but just see what they do, see how their stuff looks. If they spend a lot of money on this visually, therefore there's nothing wrong with saying or having some sort of design thinking when it's behind it. Why did they do this? Why did they choose this? What's the brand story behind it? What's your story behind it? Therefore, that basically will dictate into your logo, because even with Apple, you see the Apple logo for what it is right now. That was not the original logo. The original logo looked more like a graphic, and it was very busy. They changed it to something very simple that you see everywhere. You should want to do the same thing for yourself, basically keeping it simple, keeping it consistent, and making sure that it just looks visually appealing.
And you want to make sure that it is on all of your graphics across the board and they have a uniform look. My flyers, my promo material, my Facebook, my Instagram, my Twitter, they all have is a little snarkiness, a little light, love. It's all of those things. So people come to my page and they expect to see something that will make them smile, make them laugh, make them think. And that's also what my brand, my books, my content is about. So as an author, make sure you have a tight bio. Make sure your website is one-stop shopping. Media kit, books, about your books. Don't put a history there. Put a blurb there. People have short attention spans. The places to buy them if you're selling them yourself, or links to places where they can buy them if you're not. All your social media, Instagram, Facebook fan page, Twitter, reader focused social media, book club, BookBub, Goodreads, Amazon page, one-stop shopping. And here's the thing, authors, I can't tell you this enough. If someone asks you for a sample chapter, or if your media on my website, if they're interested in you and interested to work on you, put in that work to send them what they need. But make sure across the board, your brand means everything looks uniform, and it is the extension of you. People don't buy the book, they buy you. So who are you? Are you the author that rolls up to a book signing that like you just rolled out of bed? Or do you put on your makeup, your necklace, your wrap or whatever? You come prepared to play. You came prepared to put in that work. That is what readers will see. And I've been places that it isn't that my book is any better than anyone else's, but my presentation is what will pull people over and say, okay, this woman looked like she got it going on.
Exactly.
And that can be a selling point for you. If you're in a whole slew of places where there's a whole lot of authors, how do you stand out? Once again, people don't buy the book, they buy you. It's a job. Take it seriously. If you're going to do a book signing, if you make appearances, that sort of thing, So that's you are part of your brand. You are the first part of your brand, the representation of who you are. I am the same me at home. I am the same me wherever you see me. So I am my brand. And I didn't realize that in the beginning because I was building an outside brand. But when I started doing that inside work and healing work, that also began to be my brand. And it shows in my books, and it shows in the people that I have around me, my tribe, my clients. All of these are factors in my brand. I don't align myself with people who aren't ready to put in that work. I don't align myself with people who have a brand that will have people giving me the side eye. I love you, but
Right.
so that is, I give reviews. I give reviews to books, but if I'm going to put my name on it, I have to make sure it doesn't cast aspersions on my brand.
Yeah, definitely. Moose Ali Khan asks, "Do you like logos with text in them?" I do actually. We consider those, like I said, word marks, but like, take for instance, like there are some logos like hotel logos. Like, you don't necessarily have to look at just other authors. Look at some of these companies and everything like that, like what they're doing. See what aligns with you and what you want to align with your voice. If there is a logo with if there is a logo with a word mark with an emblem, like a crest, if you will, that can basically enact as a logo, and you can put that on a T-shirt. It looks wonderful. Just make sure you're choosing something, or choosing a font that aligns with you. There are free fonts out here that you can use. I'm tired of seeing Scriptina as a font, but because we've seen it everywhere, seen it on a lot of different small businesses and everything like that. But there are fonts on Google Fonts that are free that you can choose and to use for your own branding. So yeah, with logos with text in them, like even with like it just, but also you need to be able to pick it apart. Like, say there was a logo I did for a law firm that had just its
Initials.
and yeah, it had its initials and everything, but it also had some, like, a little tagline at the bottom, and it also had like attorneys at law, of course. That was the whole logo, but still you're able to pick it apart. So if you see just their initials, you know it's them. If you see the initials with the tagline, you know it's them. If you see their initials with attorney at law, of course it's them. But everything that I gave them was technically consistent. I believe Michelle Sims asked, such as putting your name within it. Oh wait, Musa Ali Khan asked, such as putting your name within it.
Let me say this for him, because I kind of understand a little bit about his brand. Okay. His name. He has two different names. He goes by Musa Ali Khan. People know him there. And people know him for something else as Masood Ali Khan. So for him, it would be his name, because his name stands out on its own. That's an original, unique combination of name. Because I've seen a Masood Khan or whatever, but Masood Ali Khan. So your name.
It rolls off the tongue a little bit better.
Or Masood, because he does spiritual work and healing work and soul work. I would see that it would be the coloring behind that, as well as he does shadow work and foundation work. Shadow work is inner thing that he does with men, that they help to learn about their shadow and things that have, followed them all of their lives. So for him, it would be, I could see his logo being Masood Ali Khan, but having a second time, but in a darker letter, because it will show that he shadow work.
But also with that, Masood, it has to translate well. Like, she's pretty much spot on, but it also has to translate well on any other graphic that you have. So whatever font that you choose should translate well with the graphic that you're choosing with it. Like, say if you're putting something on social media, using that as an example, like we developed social media graphics specifically for Instagram, Facebook, things of that sort. It just has to translate well. So whatever you choose as far as your font choice for your name, just make sure you have the graphics to back it up once you start posting on social media with it.
And it conveys the message that you wanted to convey. Like if it's serious, the Moose Ali Khan is a little more serious than Masood Ali Khan, has a lighter feel. Moose, if you look at some of his photos, you'll see some where he has his face looking all like, I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man. And then you got the other ones that's like, hey, so just in that, the coloring and the theme can help to translate into that logo.
Right.
And if you look at Hay House logo, if you look at any of the people who are doing spiritual work, if you look at their logos, when you're doing your Masood Ali Khan, I would stick to things that are lighter in color theme and font, whereas Ali Khan would be more standard and be more serious, almost law firm kind of serious.
Now that's the second part of the topic another part of the topic that I want to tackle, because not everybody understands how color and how font really works in with your brand. That is, like, if you Google Starbucks brand and even their brand story, it gives you everything within their brand. It gives you all the colors that they use. It gives you all the font choices that they use. So the same thing with you. Like, what we have in graphic design is called a style guide or a stylescape. So whenever somebody is working with you on your brand, especially even if it's a graphic designer, make sure they're tackling every single point, like whether it's from your voice, but that voice comes from you. Of course, we basically translate that for you through the graphic work. But your font choice that you use across the board for your graphics, for your website, for anything that you're putting out there, you stick with it for consistency. With your colors, stick with it. Like, even when you look at Facebook, you know what colors that they use. They even have their own color out of all of the colors in the world. Jay-Z even had his own version of blue. It's weird, but at the same time, it's part of his brand. So when you're working on your brand, it's not just your logo. When you think of just logo, that's only a small part of it. You have to think about your font choice for your brand, what that font choice is going to basically put out there for people. You have to think about colors that complement each other, colors that work well within your brand, that basically speaks everything as far as the mood of your brand and everything like that. There's a long list of stuff that you basically tackle whenever you're working within your brand, but those are like some of the very key basics that stretch across all your platforms that you're using. So anyway, Mom. So we're basically getting ready to end it. So I'm going to ask you one last question.
Oh, see.
One last question of one gotta go. And one gotta go. A, people who don't return shopping carts. B, people who talk to you in restrooms. C, people who make meetings just to make a meeting. D, people who drop trash in the public. One gotta go.
All of them. But of all the ones that commit the biggest sin, people who talk to you when you're in the restroom. You're supposed to be concentrating on the effort. Yeah, I can choose that one. The people who talk to you in restrooms. There you go. Hands down.
Okay.
That was better than the Michael Jackson question. Thank you very much. But also, I want you to pick up a copy of Bearing It All, The Ins and Outs of Publishing. It's a very thin book. See that? But it is the quick and dirty on the publishing industry. What we've learned. It was 12 of my clients, and my son also is one of the authors in there. We talk about writing, publishing, marketing and promotion, interior design, contracts, agents, all of it. This is the book that I wish I had when I first started in the industry. Bearing It All, The Ins and Outs of Publishing. So you may want to pick that up. And we will be doing another one of these podcasts on as he sees fit for us to tackle different topics. So please kind of inbox or email and say, hey, we need you all to talk about this or talk about that. And the ones where he's involved, we're going to do it on his page. But we also have several that we have already done in the Naleighna Kai Literary Cafe with several New York Times and national best-selling authors who are further up the food chain than I am. But they gave a lot of wisdom, including Virginia DeBerry and Donna Grant, who lost an agent and a publishing house because they protected their brand. The publishing house wanted them to write more sex in their books, and they refused. They said, no, We built a brand on focusing on the stories. So it was a big thing. And they told that part of the story of protecting their brand. And that's in Naleighna Kai's Literary Cafe.
On Facebook.
On Facebook, yes, indeed. And you can follow me, Naleighna Kai, and you can follow JL Woodson and Creative Juices Podcast and Woodson Creative Studio on Instagram as well as on Facebook. I'm sorry. You giving me that look. Why are you giving me that look?
Mom, I'm grown. I can make my own outro.
Well, go ahead then.
Where can they find you again?
NaleighnaKai.com. NaleighnaKai. www.naleighnakai.com. And if you can't remember that, it's www. Every woman needs a wife. That's the other part of the branding is I bought the domain name for most of my books because I didn't want somebody else to buy it. And then I end up having to buy it from them. So was that good?
Thank you, Mom.
Yes.
Okay. So like she said, you can find me on Creative Juices Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and this will be on YouTube as well. I'm also going to be on Anchor.fm as well as Apple Podcasts and Spotify Podcasts. So you'll be able to hear and listen to this in your car on your way to nowhere because we're social distancing. So listen to it while you're cleaning the bathroom or something and everything. Like, hey, Lisa. I'm making sure I didn't miss anybody. Hey, JL Campbell. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you for asking your questions. Hey, Jennifer. I see Jennifer basically said DNC, which were I don't remember which one. So people who make meetings just to make meetings, or people who drop trash in public. Gotta go.
Okay. And
Thank
speaking
you.
of that, we gotta go.
Anyway. So thank you, Mom, for being my guest and co-host and everything like that. Thank you for all you guys' support. If you do have any questions or just want to, if you want to ask a question that might get read on this podcast, go to creativejuicespod@gmail.com. Drop me a line or just drop a line in those social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, I believe also YouTube. That is Creative Juices Podcast. And I will see you guys next time. And remember to keep those creative juices flowing. Peace.
Change what they don't know until they choose to see. I don't fret if they don't grow. It's not my place to speak. But I'ma keep rolling round, hold it down. This time you spent with me. Yeah, I'ma keep rolling round, hold it down. Life's more than memories.